Today in this video I'm going to cover how the OIS tester can be used to test an IIS to verify that it's beating national standards. I'm going to go ahead and log into the application. It's installed on my local desktop and it's currently configured to be connected to the DQA, Data Quality Assurance Engine, which has the same functionality as an OIS HL7 interface. And today I'll be demonstrating how that can be tested. First, I have to select the target system, in this case it's DQA test, and click switch. Then click on the test IIS option, and here you'll see the start test table. In the start test table you have several different options to pick from. The first one is what kind of query type do you want to do? Ideally when we're testing we'd like to be able to send in a query, a QBP for instance, or if it's an old system, a VXQ. And this query would be sent in to pull the patient record back out to both test the query functionality and, most importantly, to test to see if data that was sent in was received as expected. In this case, the DQA system does support QBP, so I'm going to select QBP. If you do not select QBP, then tests related to QBP will not be run. In addition, you have an option here called pause. Some IIS systems that are tested against can accept VXU messages, but may not immediately process all of the data into the system in order to have a successful query. So in these cases, you can check the pause button. This will cause that the system will send all the VXUs first, which it normally does, but before continue on to query them back out, we'll wait until you allow the system to move forward. And this will give you time to run the test, and then when it's complete, you can go out and run the process necessary to pull all the patients that were sent in into the system, and then you can allow it to continue to do the queries to see if it can pull the data back. In this case, the DQA does not need a pause button, as the data that goes in is immediately available during queries. I can run several tests. Today I'll only demonstrate the basic test, as the other ones are very similar to this one as well. So we have basic selected. I'll also run the conformance test. That's the default that's selected here. So only thing I've changed in this case is I'm going to do QBP. When that's done, you hit the start button, and the test will begin to run. In this first page, you'll see it says test results. We have level 1, level 2, level 3. I won't be describing exactly what these tests are involved in. The documentation of this is on the website as to what these tests mean. This gives you an update where it's at. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. Actually, in the time I've just been talking, it's actually finished all of the testing. So level 1 testing, it first started here on this level, and it submitted 7 scenarios, and all of them passed. Then after that, it submitted 7 queries, and all the required fields were returned as expected. It gave you performance information on how long it took. It took 432 milliseconds on average for each update, and 657 milliseconds for queries to respond. And the acknowledgement messages and the RSPs were all in good format. If you scroll down, you can see that you can start the test again. On here, I can simply run that. If I didn't like the test, I can change it and I can run it again. It also has the option when you're running a test to actually stop it, and it went so fast we couldn't see it. So let's see if we can do that now. Let's go ahead and run the PV. Let's run a longer test. Let's do the intermediate so we can see that one. Okay, so I just hit refresh. It's running the test again. So you should see it says updates not sent. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. Now you can see that it's been updated. So all these have been sent, but now it's running intermediate tests. In intermediate tests, there's quite a few more tests to run, so intermediate takes longer. I would recommend if you're testing a system to start off with the basic first to make sure everything's running properly, there's no problems. The basic test only sends about 14 messages altogether, 7 queries, 7 updates and 7 queries. So it's a lot better to start off with that and make sure there's no problems before moving on to a larger volume. The intermediate test has a large volume of messages it sends, and there it's making progress. Down below, you can actually see the test details. In this case, we can tell when it started, what it's currently doing, which tests are enabled, which ones are disabled. It tells you how many updates it sent, how many queries it sent. So it's already sent 77 updates. Let's refresh it. It's 31% complete. It's already sent 132 updates. The test. So it also talks about where it's connecting to the DQA test. It's using post. Here's the counts of different kind of messages it's done. And then it starts going through details. There's a section here of basic interoperability tests. This is a very long printout actually once it gets done. It tells you everything it did. If you click on the test, like under details here, you can actually see, I'm going to open this in a new tab so I can leave this one open. And this is what it actually said. It said, I'm starting out with this message. This is the skeleton. I'm doing the following things to the message, and this is what I actually sent off to the system. In this case, we have Andre Kelly being sent to the system for test. And this is important to understand about this testing system. This time I ran the test, it was Andre Kelly. The next time I run the test, this exact same scenario will be tested against the IIS, but it'll be a different name. It'll have the same characteristics, but a different name. In this case, we got a response back saying the message was accepted, and that's great. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. We also took the acknowledgement message, and we ran it through our HL7 analysis of it, and we did not get any errors. The warnings are not really an issue. We're just looking for errors. So there were no errors in the response message. That was great. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. So that one's almost finished. You can also, at the top up here, it says details. You can click on this. What that will do is take you just down the page to that section where we discuss the basic details. And you can actually see each of the tests and see what was run. So for instance, this one says NIST IZ number 7, complete record. I click on details, and you will actually see this is what I sent. An MSH message, a VXU message with an RXA there, an RXA there, an RXA there. It's just like NIST test number 7. So I'm going to go up here and see where it's at. Let's refresh it. All right, so it's completely intermediate tests, which means it knows the performance information, and it's done all the conformance tests. So that whole level 1 column is complete, and now it's doing level 2. All required IS code fields are supported, and it's running now. So it's continuing on. It's going to query back all these intermediate messages to see what actually came through. It's nearly done. I'm actually going to move away from here and show you back at the home page. You can go back and look at test IIS results and review previously run test IIS results. And as you see right here, it actually shows the different results I've run before. So just before I started this meeting, I ran some other ones. So if I click here, it actually gives you a page with all the details, the same details we had saved. So while you can only run one test at a time, you can always look at the old details information. And in fact, if this web application was available, I would actually can send this link to somebody. They could read the results without actually being logged in. And this can be saved as well. If you'd like to see a copy of the results, there's another place you can look as well. Inside the file database where the IIS tester is, there are folders for each of the profiles or test accounts. Now I'm going to go to this test one, which is the one I'm using. And if you go under, I believe it's test. Yes, here it is. So under test cases, it says there's an IIS test report. It has a test report for each of the dates. So I'm going to look up this one I ran earlier this morning. And there's several things in there. First one is you have example messages. These are the ones that I actually used. I'm going to actually open these up. Let me open it up in Notepad here. So the first file you see here is example messages. These are ones that I put together. It's sent in Abram Cumberland. These are the actual messages. So you can use these for further testing if you'd like to. You can also open up the IIS testing report. Let me open it right here. So here's the IIS testing report. It's actually a file, so you can actually email that file. And you can also open up each of the individual test cases. This is the actual details for each of these. It is pulled up there. So going back to this, you'll see every single test case is in here. All the ones that were created and all the details about what happened. So it's all recorded inside here for future reference. Let's go back now and let's see how the testing is actually going on. So I'm going to click on Test IIS over here. I actually see it's 72%. It's actually still running right now. It's almost complete. So while we were looking over something else, we were able to look at the other messages. And this way you can always capture the conformance stuff that you've done. So let's just wait for this to finish. 81%. If you click on the word details, for instance, we can chop down here. You can actually see some of the tests that it's doing. For instance, on this one, it's trying to test all the different codes. So let's just pick a nice one here. So this was testing history of disease is anthrax. Okay. So it takes this original message. It does these following transformations. And then it customizes, it does a bunch of this. It adds a disease with presumed immunity, a new RXA segment. So if you look down here, it says no vaccine administered. Disease with presumed immunity, anthrax. So this person, I guess, is immune to anthrax, so they didn't get an anthrax shot. This is a valid message according to the guide. And when we sent it in, it seemed to like that. It did have some warnings, but it didn't reject the message. It accepted it. So that means that the anthrax code was accepted, which is great. That means the system is capable of supporting that code. And that's one of those tests. So let's go back and see how the test is going now. Refresh, and now it's complete. And in this case, this is good to see because now you see that not all required or optional I fields were returned. So if you look right here, one of them had a problem in the test where it didn't pass the test. And if you scroll down, eventually you see query county code is Abbeville. So this test actually failed. And if you actually look at the details, we can actually compare. And this is one of the reports that comes back from it, is it shows that we sent in the address state, we sent in HL70289. When we sent that in as the address state, it said nothing, it failed it back here. I think this is actually a bad test, which is why we're failing. But that shows you what it looks like when there's a failure. So again, this test will let you see how the IIS is working and will help you step through and actually verify things are working correctly. Every time you run the test, it runs a whole new set of patients, and this will help you keep your system on track and within standard. That's the end of this video presentation on how to use the test IIS function.